Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bad Gamepad podcast. I am running solo this week. It is December 17th, rather, 2022. Almost read that completely wrong. And yeah, I'm running solo tonight, and I'm actually not running on the usual dates. I would have been recording yesterday, but I couldn't get anybody to record with me. People were just busy, so nobody was able to keep in contact, which is okay. I'm always prepared to do the show alone. That's not a problem whatsoever. But I also was feeling really out of it yesterday, so I decided I'm not going to record a podcast if I'm not feeling 100% or even close to well enough to be able to talk for a significant period of time. Not a whole lot to talk about today. Just kind of scrounge around for topics as they sort of come to mind here. The most immediate thing I'm seeing as far as any notable news is Pokemon announced, at least on the anime side of things, that after 25 years, Ash Ketchum is finally ending his journey. From the looks of things, it looks like he's going to be replaced by nobody in particular. It's not going to be just one protagonist. It looks like they're going to do what I've thought they should do for a long time, which is going to be different protagonists per region and whatever. If they continue, I think they're going to do different types of series. It's not just going to be the Ash Ketchum adventure. Ash Ketchum and Brock, and then introducing new characters as it goes along. It's going to be more focused on individual trainers within those regions, I think, which I think is really, again, what they should have done a long time ago. I think it makes more sense. The whole Ash Ketchum and Jesse James Meowth from Team Rocket thing is just, it's tired. It's been 25 years. That is insane. But yeah, I was never a fan of that long term. I think it worked for the first 2 or 3 seasons, but after that it felt kind of shoehorned. And I know it's iconic, so I'm not trying to step on any toes here, but I really am just not a fan of Ash Ketchum as a character. I don't think he's a good Pokemon trainer. It seems like now they finally made him succeed, but for a while he's just not a good Pokemon trainer. There's a lot of memes about how he catches and releases his strongest Pokemon. He's just not that good of a trainer. I'd like to see trainers who are actually competent and struggle as they grow, as opposed to Ash, who just kind of fumbles his way through each region. I'm just not a big fan. I'm not a fan of his character. I'm not a fan of... It doesn't feel like he's had any growth as a character other than the show artificially just having him good at times. I mean, honestly, I don't watch enough to really give you a solid assessment of his overall character. It's just what I've been willing to watch. I just don't like. I really just don't like it. So I am glad for that, and I think I would actually start watching Pokemon as an anime now, because if they go with the route where it's more varied protagonists, then I'm absolutely all for it. If it's going to be another one that they drag out for 25 years, then I'm like, nah, just no. Just make it varied characters. Make them interesting, At the end of the day, I think that's the best way to do it. It'll be interesting to see how they handle Pikachu, though, because Pikachu's been the mascot for so long, and still technically is. So, I don't know how they're going to really handle that, if they're going to just... I really don't know. I haven't really thought about that, but I'm sure they've thought about it more than I have. But that's the biggest point of Nintendo news that I've seen personally. I haven't seen any... I haven't really seen any major releases for anything. I mean, other than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that was the kind of the big game to cap off the year. I just haven't seen any major releases surrounding that. But I'm on Nintendo Life right now, which is where I like to get Nintendo news. Used to be a couple other Nintendo sites that were around. A lot of them are gone, but Nintendo Life's one of the ones that I like. I've actually got an account there, so I used to be on it way more frequently than I am, but for the sake of the podcast, I'm on it now, and I'm seeing a couple of different things. They're just letting people know about sales, mostly. Another thing I didn't know about, it's releasing soon, it might already be released, I don't know. But there is a Mega Man Battle Network collection, which surprised me because, honestly, I have very little experience with the Battle Network games, but I know they've been popular because they just kept going forever and ever. They got like Pokemon where they started getting 2 different versions, and people really liked them, but I just was, I didn't get them. It wasn't even that I wasn't a fan, I just didn't understand them. But I went on Nintendo's thing and saw the trailer, and it looked like a good trailer. I remember playing, I think it was the very first version, because I think it was at the point in the GBA's life cycle where the DS had just come on the scene, so they were doing both a DS release and a GBA release, or they did a GBA release and then they did a DS release after, kind of like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon with Red and Blue Rescue Team. So I think they did something similar to that, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be completely wrong. But I do remember, I think I remember playing the Game Boy version. I think that's actually what I did play. A friend of mine let me borrow it at school, in middle school. But I just didn't get it. I didn't get the combat. You know, it's kind of like grid-based, but it's also turn-based like an RPG, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. I'd like to try it again just to see if I can figure out how it works, and then make a determination as to whether or not I like it. But I am happy for the fans of that series, because it looks like at least the first 6 games are going to be in that collection. That's pretty substantial. That's a lot of content. And a lot of game companies are doing that now. You'll see Konami just released this year a Castlevania Advance Collection, which I've been mulling over getting, because I never really played those. I played a little bit of, I think it's Aria of Sorrow. I think that's what I played. The one with the white-haired, the long white-haired kid, and where Dracula's castle's in like the moon or something. I started to play a little bit of that, and I loved how it felt. It felt a lot like, I think it was like a slightly slower Symphony of the Night in some ways. Or maybe it was the same pace, I don't know. But I really liked the way it played, so I might end up getting that collection. Even though I didn't get the original Castlevania collection. I've been playing, and I guess we might as well get into what I've been playing, because I don't know really where this is going to go, but I've been playing Super Castlevania 4. The Super Castlevania 4 has been a lot of fun. I have it on the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, and it's a lot of fun. It's one of those games where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this Castlevania thing, because I didn't grow up with playing any of these games. I've got an opportunity now that I've got the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, and I'm gonna go ahead and just see if I can learn it. And so far I have, and I've been going through the levels. You know, I still die a lot, but man is it fun. It is a lot of fun. It's not, that's when the series didn't quite hit Metroidvania, but boy is it fun. As just an action platformer, it's a lot of fun. It feels very fun to play. Even though you don't run, and you have a lot of limitations, it is well balanced. It feels fun. It's fun to whip enemies in that game. It really is. And that's the most satisfying thing, really. So, playing through that, and then still playing Infernax, trying to finish a file that I started. I started a file with the cheat to basically be a wizard, and so I put on the cheat for infinite mana and infinite XP and money and invincibility, so I'm just breezing through as the wizard because it just feels awesome to do. It's just funny. It's like you're like a super-powered Gandalf, and your final robes are white, like your basic armor. Whenever you use other weapons, changes color. Your robes are white, the most powerful armor you can get, and I'm trying to get the most powerful ring you can use, which will basically substitute for your most powerful weapon. But for some reason, I must have made a mistake somewhere, because the game isn't letting me move forward with the quest that'll allow me to get the ultimate good ending, which would allow me to get the most powerful weapon. So I don't know what I did there, but I'm still having a lot of fun with Infernax. Not so much having fun with Moonlighter. I just stopped playing it. I know I mentioned that with Artful Thinking in the last episode, but I just did not like that game. I liked the visuals and the music, but I just couldn't get into it, and I couldn't keep it. Sorry if you hear some rustling. I've been reaching into my coat pocket, and I've got a bag for my dog's waste in there, because I'm taking out my dog frequently. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, I've been playing that. I tried playing some Splatoon 3. I played with one of the new weapons for the first time. The new splatter shot, the brand new splatter shot that's similar to the Pro, and I forget what it's called. I should have had it brought up. But it's the new one that's longer range, and it doesn't consume nearly as much ink as the Pro. And it's fairly well balanced. So it's basically like the Pro, but it doesn't consume as much ink. And it's not more damage. I think it's about equal of damage, maybe slightly less damage than the Pro. It's basically like a regular splatter shot, but with more range, which is really nice. And I like it a lot. And I was able to win, I think I did 4 or 5 matches with it. There were a couple of disconnects from other people, but I did 4 or 5 solid matches with it, and I think it turned out really, really good. It felt very balanced. Didn't feel like it took terribly long to kill, but there were some that were kind of a stretch. But I enjoyed it, and I like the look of it because it looks just like a Super Soaker. It's awesome. I really like the look of the thing. I might actually go for the Pro badge on it. Maybe. I don't know. It might be kind of a grind. The past couple weapons I did that with felt like an absolute slog. I was just ready to be done. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go for that. But so I played that a little bit, and then I've been playing Animal Crossing frequently, trying to play daily, although not really succeeding. I play with a friend from time to time, and that's really fun. I usually go to her island and we mess around and just. I look at, like, she likes to decorate way more than I do, so I like to see how she's changed things up and try to think of ideas of how I can implement things on my island piece by piece. My island is not as intricately decorated as hers is, so it is what it is, but we have a lot of fun together. We do, like, wacky photos and trade items. I like to give people gifts. I like to give islanders and real life friends a lot of gifts in Animal Crossing. So if you ever friend me up in Animal Crossing, I will get an entire catalog's worth of items for you. I love doing it. If I could do that in real life, I would too. Honestly, it's just fun to give gifts. I really like it. But yeah, we have a lot of fun doing that. And then when I play solo, I have a lot of fun just doing day-to-day stuff, watering, fishing, and trying to time travel to get certain items in rotation, certain clothing items, certain furniture, yeah, that sort of thing. It is just, I will say this about Animal Crossing New Horizon, it's a fun game, but Nintendo dropped the ball in a lot of ways with New Horizons. The first way that I think that they dropped the ball was the breakable items. Now, if you've been around, like my YouTube channel or my Instagram, you know that whenever I bring up Zelda Breath of the Wild, the number one reason I hate that game is the breakable weapons. I do not like the concept of weapon durability. Now, with Animal Crossing, you can prolong items breaking by basically customizing or adding a new coat of paint to them. And that's fine. But I still don't like it. And there's a very generous amount of time that they let you use these items, but I mean, even the gold items break. And I think they have an even longer period of time, but they still break. And you can't customize those, so it's really frustrating. It's very frustrating. I don't really like it. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that for all of the game's new freedoms, there's a whole bunch of limitations. Where you can swim in the ocean is limited. You can't swim in lakes, which is weird. As far as I know, I haven't tried it, but I don't believe you can. You can't be an animal, which you would think that would be a major step in the series, but I don't know if they'll ever do that. But I'd love to be able to be an animal that you could just customize the look of. You know, even based on pre-existing templates, you know? I think that would be really, really cool. But unfortunately, you can't. It's still ridiculously hard to get the villagers that you want because you need amiibo cards basically to do it easier. Otherwise, it's just a roll of the dice where you just have to basically... Well, first off, you have to save up the Nook Miles to be able to get the Nook Miles tickets, to be able to fly to these deserted islands and find these people. and then you have to hope it's the animal that you want, or even the species of animal that you want, and it's a complete roll of the dice. Or you can rely on the campsite, which is completely random. I don't like the way that they've implemented adding villagers to your island. It's just not. It's not very good. You know, even with the Happy Home Designer update, there's no easy way to get villagers. It's incredibly difficult. And I really, really am not a fan of that. But it's never been easy in Animal Crossing. It's always been random. But I would like for them to, at the very least, come up with an easier system that doesn't involve Amiibo. Because those Amiibo cards are ridiculous. You try to get those now, they're ridiculous amounts of money. And you're not even guaranteed to get the villagers you want in that specific pack of that series. So, I don't know. I don't like that. But I love the game. I mean, I think the game is great for an Animal Crossing. It does all the Animal Crossing stuff for the most part right. It does a couple things wrong, like I mentioned. And another thing it does wrong is events. I don't think the events are as good as events in the past, but, you know, it's just crazy because it feels like Nintendo just sort of dropped it. It had all of this unprecedented success and hype surrounding it, and Nintendo was just like, yeah, well, we're done giving updates. After Happy Home Designer, it's just, we're done. I'm like, seriously? There's so much potential. And I figure at this point they're probably going, okay, well, we're going to make a new game. And that's fine. That's fair. But a game like that deserves ongoing support. You can add new furniture. You can add new clothes. You can add new events. New hairstyles, for crying out loud. I mean, I think we got a couple new hairstyles with certain updates. But, I mean, still, the fact that it's just stopped cold turkey. You know, more variations of items that already exist. You know, I'm a guy who loves orange, so I'd love to see more orange items. But there's certain items that don't come in orange. You know, it's crazy. Or the ability to be able to customize clothes to a certain color pattern. Like if you don't have clothing of a certain item, be able to customize it, you know? Although, to be fair, that's really unnecessary because you've got the wardrobe. So if there's a clothing item you want, you can use the wardrobe enables, which I didn't know for the longest time, and I felt so embarrassed that I didn't. You can go into the wardrobe and get other color options in there. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that. They just kind of skipped over that dialogue when they got Abel's. So, yeah, it is what it is. Excuse me. But ultimately, it's a great game, but I just wish Nintendo would support it more, and I wish that they would tweak it. I wish they would add mass crafting options. You know, I wish they would add maybe some non-breakable items. I don't know. Because they want you to do so much with crafting, and I'm glad they added food. That was the biggest thing. I had been wanting food since Wild World, like real eatable food. And while it's a little wonky, like you end up eating an entire dish of food, I mean, it's fine. You can still make highly detailed food, which is really cool. It's not as satisfying as it is in other games to cook food, but, I mean, it is what it is, you know? I still haven't gotten a whole bunch of recipes. I've got a ton, but there's still a lot more that I want. But, yeah, that's a daily player I try to play, but I don't make it every day. I'm trying to think, what else am I playing? I don't think I'm really playing anything else on a regular basis, at least not Nintendo-wise, because so many games have just gotten just not fun for one reason or another. There's a lot of games I'm just not enjoying. I'm trying to look for something new. I'm looking into Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1 and 2. I played the first Curse of the Moon. I played the original Bloodstained. I have it on Switch, and I beat the basic story. I got the basic ending. You know, I'm not going for the advanced ending, because that game is just... It's fun, but it doesn't feel... And I think a lot of people felt this way. It doesn't feel like a real solid Symphony of the Night successor. It's fun, but it doesn't quite capture that feeling that Symphony of the Night did. And it doesn't feel as in-depth. So, it's a good start to a potential series, but the next game should definitely expand on the size and scope of the areas that you explore, because it feels very limited. But the Curse of the Moon games, which are based on the older Castlevanias, are a lot of fun. The first Curse of the Moon I ended up beating. I think I got to the final boss, and I don't remember if I beat it or not, but I just remember having a blast. And I haven't played Curse of the Moon 2. I've been thinking about getting both of them, because the first Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is $9.99 on Switch, and then Curse of the Moon 2 is $14.99. So it'd be together. If I got them together, it'd be $25. I'm surprised there isn't a bundle for $25. Missed opportunity there, but oh well. Between that and the Castlevania Advance Collection, though, I don't know which I want more. So, but I am trying to find new things to play. I'm trying to focus on indies that are solid. I looked into The Messenger, which is a game I played a little bit of on Game Pass over on Xbox, but it doesn't grab me. I was watching some footage of later levels past where I got, and it just doesn't. It's fun, but it's not on the top of my list. It'll be one that I think I'll pick up eventually. It's got a nice sort of Ninja Gaiden-inspired gameplay style. A little bit more... The levels are a little bit larger in scope than something like that, though. And I think it's a little bit more forgiving. I think it's a lot more forgiving, actually. And it gets difficult from what I understand. And it's definitely more comedic in its storytelling as well. It's something I'll definitely get. I tend to like the games published by Devolver Digital. Wasn't a big fan of Enter the Gungeon, though. That game really disappointed me, because I wanted something that played... It's similar to something like Nuclear Throne, which I really love and would highly recommend. Nuclear Throne is one of the best roguelikes I've ever played, or roguelite, or whatever it is. It's one of the best in that genre I've ever played. The gameplay feedback loop is incredibly satisfying. It's just a bunch of fun to play, but Enter the Gungeon just didn't do it for me. It's got some solid elements for sure, but I just uninstalled it and just haven't looked back. I think Nuclear Throne is a better experience, but that's just me. You might feel differently. What else? What else is there to really mention? Like I said, there's not a whole lot of news on the Nintendo side of things. They're having a big eShop sale, but, I mean, what's the point of talking about sales? Because by the time you listen to this, it's most likely long over. But that is one thing to bring up, is that they have been having a lot of frequent sales, and I do appreciate that on Nintendo's part, because that gets people into a lot of indie games and shows that the Switch is a very solid console for buying indie games. You know, I think when it comes to buying an indie game, you shouldn't have to pay more than, say, $30, depending on what it is. You know, if it's a 2D platformer that can be beat within a couple of hours, I'd say $20. If it's a 3D adventure of any sort, I think it's 30 or 40. But definitely not 60, definitely not 70. Absolutely not 70. And I like the way that they're priced, and with sales they just go down even further, which is really, really cool. But I'm mostly playing indies. Nothing on the AAA circuit interests me even in the slightest. The only AAA that was recently released that I've got a slight interest in, but not enough to buy it, even though I'm a die-hard fan of the series, is Dragon Quest Treasures. The thing about Dragon Quest Treasures, though, is it's confusing as to what it actually was, because they sort of made it look like it was going to be a monster tamer similar to the Dragon Quest Monsters games, or like Pokemon. And I guess it was originally supposed to be a monsters game, but they shifted it into being more of an action RPG with monster partners, essentially. So in some ways it is still a monster tamer. You still tame monsters, but it's not the primary focus of the game. The primary focus of the game is collecting treasure while being an action RPG. So it stars a young Mia and Eric. I think his sister's Mia. Is it Mia? I don't know. I could be getting that wrong. It's been a while since I played Dragon Quest XI. Still haven't beaten the final boss, by the way. Fantastic game. If you haven't played Dragon Quest XI, I don't care who you are. Dragon Quest XI is one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. It is tremendous. From a story standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, absolutely awesome. And I would recommend at least playing to a certain portion of that before playing Treasures, although it might be completely disconnected because the two main characters are young versions of characters in Dragon Quest XI. It's not 100% necessary, but I would definitely recommend it because I think it lends more connection to those characters and seeing their bond. So, but I don't think this story is related to Dragon Quest XI. I think it's a what-if scenario, I think. Kind of expanding on something that Dragon Quest XI opened up with these characters having a childhood of basically being raised by pirates. So, that's pretty neat. But I'm not as interested as I should be as a Dragon Quest fan because I don't know, it feels like it's not, as far as a spin-off is concerned. I really liked Builders, and Builders 2 is really good. I still haven't gotten off the main island there, but I mean, if I've got Builders 2, why do I need another action Dragon Quest, you know what I'm saying? If anything, I'd like to see the Dragon Quest Warriors type games. I forget what they're called. Those haven't made it over to Switch yet, and I'd really like to see those. Because I really think Dragon Quest lends itself well to that style. But as of this recording of this podcast, there hasn't been one yet. There hasn't been a port of that series. I think there's at least 2 or 3, if not just 2 games in that series, and they're both on PlayStation. I don't even know if they're on PC. I never bothered to check. But I do love Dragon Quest, and Treasures is a more recent release, but it's closer to the holidays. I don't want to spend that kind of money. It's a $60 release. I already didn't get Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think those games completely dropped the ball. I've been looking at videos to see if they've improved, but it seems like nobody's talking about it on the YouTube side of things, or people are just focused on the tips and tricks, and here's the ultimate guide to your shinies and your sandwiches and your post-game. And here's how to do 15 different styles of Nuzlocke. And I'll get to Nuzlocks in a minute, because I do want to kind of go on a side tangent about that. But overall, Dragon Quest Treasures, it's not compelling enough for me to buy it at full price right now. But from what I've heard, it's pretty solid. I think it's a pretty solid experience. There's yet to be an entry in the Dragon Quest series, either mainline or side, that has really failed. They've been pretty solid games. The teams behind those games put their all into it. I think it's one of Square's best franchises right now. So, hopefully Square Enix can just leave them alone and let them keep doing what they're doing and not mess with it like they have with Final Fantasy. Because Final Fantasy's been such a mixed bag. That's another one that came out, was Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. Or Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I think that's the correct way to say it. And I think that one's gotten mixed reception, because from what I understand about Crisis Core, the original, you either loved it or you hated it. It's never been consistently good or consistently bad. It's just been either love it or hate it. It was the one, I think it was the one that the remake styled their combat after the most, although it might still be pretty different. I don't know, I really don't know much of anything about Crisis Core, other than I watched the animated parody from Rabtoons about it. That was pretty funny. But overall, I think it surprised a lot of people that they were going to re-release it, because I think a lot of people thought they weren't going to for some reason, but they did, and it was one of the surprises of the year. And it's on Switch, too, so I think it's probably a solid thing to get. I'm not going to say one way or another, because I just don't know enough about it, but I guess if you're a fan of that title, you've got this HD remake of it, so that's cool. I don't think it's a remaster. I think it's a full-on remake, so I don't know what's changed. I noticed they did a mobile classic-style turn-based game for Final Fantasy VII that's sort of a remake, in a classical inspired style. I'd like to see something like that ported over to the Switch. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I don't know how big it is or how in-depth, but I thought it was really neat that they did it. But anyways, those are just side tangents. Speaking of side tangents, I wanted to talk a little bit about Nuzlocke. Just as an aside, I won't spend too much time on it, but I'll be completely honest in saying, when it comes to Nuzlocke, I'm not a huge fan. I've never done one myself. I've never had any interest to do one myself. I'm not a fan of creating your own challenges in games that the game doesn't already give you, other than something like, a no death run. Those are kind of cool, but with Nuzlocke you get, your Pokemon don't, your Pokemon die and you can only catch so many Pokemon per route, and all these different self-imposed rules that the game doesn't impose upon you, just to have your own special challenge. And I don't know. It's not a terrible. It's like, it's the worst thing that the community has ever done. It's like, it's fine. It's fine if you want to do them. I have no problem with that. But it's just funny. Whenever I look up Pokemon content, it's the majority of content I see is 15,000 people doing a Nuzlocke, and it's like, come on. I just want to see somebody play the game regularly. There's enough in the core game, I think, that people can really latch onto. But Nuzlocke are all the rage now. It's what all the streamers are doing. It's what all the Pokemon YouTubers are doing. I'm just like, I just don't care. I'd rather just see people play the game straight up and, build a team of Pokemon that are solid enough to carry them through the game, and do challenges based on, things like team composition and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. That's not to say that I think people shouldn't do them. I've seen people do them and they've been very entertaining. I watch Jaden Animation's videos on Pokemon Nuzlocke are tremendous. I think she does a fantastic job. But outside of that, it just feels like people are hopping on a bandwagon. So I'm not a huge fan of it, at least from a content creation and consumption side. When I'm looking for Pokemon content, I want to see people giving tips and tricks for the regular game. I don't want to see all the Nuzlocke stuff. That just feels kind of like a flooded market, as it were. But that's just me. Almost all of this is just me. I'm by myself here. So you'll have to bear with me. My voice is getting kind of raspy. We're not even an hour in yet. I don't know how long this is going to be. But, excuse me. Let's see. What is there for news? Anything. Let me just scroll through here and see if I can't find some news. Still nothing, it looks like. Oh, it looks like new Sega Genesis games have been added. Let's see. What are these? Golden Axe 2, Alien Storm, Columns, and Virtua Fighter 2. Oh, wow. Virtua Fighter's pretty big. Golden Axe 2 is also pretty big. I haven't heard of the other two. That's cool. I didn't realize that Virtua Fighter started on the Genesis. That's different. And Columns appears to be a puzzle game. Alien Storm looks like a Contra-type run and gun. Or a beat 'em up. I can't really tell. They only got one screenshot here on Nintendo Life. But that's cool. And a lot of these are just opinion pieces on different things, so there's not a whole lot of actual news. During the Game Awards, they announced Hades 2. I did want to talk about that a little bit because I did like the first Hades quite a bit. And I'm honestly not excited for the second game. You think I would be, right? Like the second game, it's like, it's more of... But they're introducing Zagreus' sister, who apparently was just always there. Or they're going to say this is like a time skip where it's time forward and they had another daughter, I guess. It's weird. It's a weird introduction of a character. I don't know. But everybody's already hyping it up to the moon and back like it's going to be just as good as the first. And listen, I hope it is. Genuinely. Because I think the first game was one of the greatest indies ever made. From purely a gameplay standpoint, the story is hit or miss, honestly. The story of Hades is, I mean, it's very loosely based on Greek mythology. You can tell they took a lot of liberties, and there's a lot of modern day cultural identity politics in it. Although there was some of that in Greek mythology too, so I think they're just expanding upon that in the modern age. How we've sort of been a renaissance of some ideologies and things like that. I won't get too deep into that, but from a gameplay standpoint, it is one of the most addictive and fun games out there that you can buy because the feedback loop of gameplay is just tremendous. We mentioned it with Artful Thinking briefly when talking about Moonlighter, but I'm telling you guys, Hades is a fun one, and I would recommend it. As far as the second game is concerned, I saw the trailer. It just looks like more of the same, which is not bad. I'm sure they'll add plenty of stuff to it. I think it'll probably be fun. I'm honestly not interested. I'm surprised that they are doing it, honestly. And it makes sense from a business standpoint. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the interest just isn't there for me. You know? And hopefully my mind will be changed as more is released of it. But right now it's not grabbing me. So, I mean, it's kind of a tentatively excited. Or tentatively curious, I should say. I'm not even really excited for it because I don't know what it is other than it looks like more of the same. But I'm not gonna get super excited about it just because it looks like more of the same. Because that could also be a bad thing. They could mess with balancing. They could, there's all sorts of things that they could do to make it worse. But I have faith that they do a good job. Supergiant Games is a good studio. They seem to really have their head on their shoulders when it comes to balancing gameplay and all these sorts of things. But story-wise, I could care less, because that's how I felt about the first Hades, is I cared less about the story. There were some story notes that were interesting, but a lot of them were just passable. A lot of them were just like, oh, hey, we're going to patch up romance between these two people who are dead, so it doesn't matter. You know? Outside of the main storyline of Zagreus and Hades and his mother. Athena, is it? No. No, yeah, it is Athena, isn't it? What is his mom's name? Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Let me look it up. Hades! Boy, this is gonna be fun for the audio listeners, huh? Even though it's going to be audio on YouTube as well. They're pointing me to... The internet is pointing me to the Greek mythological Hades. It's like, no, there's a video game. A lot of stuff is called Hades. Basically the Greek version, or it's not even really the Greek version of Satan. Well, in some ways it is. But not entirely. There's some pretty distinct differences. There it is, video game, 2020. Persephone, that's the name of the mother, Persephone. I don't know why I was thinking Ares. Persephone. So apparently Hades and Persephone have a daughter, which I guess is in line with Greek, although it's actually Zeus pretending to be Hades, from what I understand. But they're just changing it to being Hades in this game for whatever reason. Or maybe they'll go with that route and create some drama, I don't know. But I'm just not excited for it. It just doesn't grab me. It's like, oh yay, it's cool they're making it, and I hope it does well, but I'm just not excited for it. I wasn't excited for the first game because I didn't know what it was, and then I played it, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So maybe it'll be another pleasant surprise like that, When it comes to sequels, what I'm most looking forward to is Hollow Knight Silksong. I think that's going to be tremendous. I still haven't beaten the first one, by the way. I know I mentioned that with a lot of games, that I still haven't beaten this, and that's just because some of these games I get really hung up on things, and sometimes I get past something I just can't beat. Like Hollow Knight, for instance, is some of those boss fights require such precision timing, and I'm not on top of it at all. and you get so lost in that game. That is a Metroidvania that I've gotten lost in more than anything else. And I'm doing a Let's Play of Metroid Fusion right now, and it's very easy to get lost in that, especially the last 2 episodes I recorded. I got very lost, so it definitely happens in that genre, but boy, oh boy, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight wants you to get lost. I think the developers said that was on purpose. They wanted you to feel like that's why there's really not a definitive map setting like there is in these other games where you can just pull it out. You know, you got to have certain things equipped to be able to even use the map. So, but it is still a fantastic game. It's fun to play. It's fun to watch. I like listening to Mossbag on YouTube do all the different lore speculation and theories and compile stuff based on what he knows, because that game's got a deep lore. It's got a deeper lore than you would realize. And it's a really fascinating lore, too. I would highly recommend watching his stuff. I think that's Mossbag again. So, I'm very much looking forward to Silksong. There's a lot of the footage and gameplay footage. It looks great. I just hope they sort of dial back the whole getting lost aspect, because as fun as it can be to just kind of explore, I want to progress through a game, you know? I want the exploration to feel balanced, and quite frankly, it doesn't always feel balanced in Hollow Knight. There are some areas where it's more straightforward, but a lot of it is just dead end after dead end, and that just gets frustrating. But it'll be interesting to see where they take this story with a character that you don't really know much about based on Hollow Knight. You just kind of have a couple encounters with, and they kind of give you some cryptic sort of advice, and you don't really know much about the character Hornet, but she's getting her own game, so it's great. Just gotta wait till it releases, along with Alien Hominid Invasion, which it feels like they're getting closer to releasing that. And I'm very excited. That's probably my most anticipated indie game yet. I'm very excited for that. Everything I see of that game looks like it's going to have a great feedback loop, like something like Hades. It's just going to be so replayable. And that's what I look for in an indie game, is a game that has fun gameplay that's just infinitely replayable. I really like that. And I think that Alien Hominid Invasion is going to have that. I'll be disappointed if it doesn't. But Behemoth has yet to let me down, because Castle Crashers was really, really good for a side-scrolling beat-em-up. It was tremendous. I remember back in the day, I introduced some of my friends to Castle Crashers, and they were immediately hooked on it. So it's a really good experience. Really good. Alright, let's see. I want to try and find some actual news to talk about here. Update for Azura Strikers. Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. I still haven't even touched the second game. I've barely beat the first. Ys X Nordics announced for Nintendo Switch, launching in 2023. Oh, a new Ys games. That's a series I've just started to get into. I just got Ys Origins this year. That's a lot of fun. But I haven't gotten any of the 3D Ys games, and I guess this is the next one. Of course, all the focus now is on Fire Emblem Engage, is it? The one with the multicolored hair, the red and the blue haired character. Excuse me. I'll be honest, I never got into Fire Emblem. It always looked cool, and it's been insanely popular, but not a turn-based tactic player by any stretch of the imagination. Not good at it. Not in my wheelhouse. Eventually, I would like to get what people would consider to be a solid Fire Emblem and just, give it a go. Just give it my best shot. Try to make an attempt to get good at it. But as it stands right now, it's not a game for me. But I'm glad they're doing well and getting entries, because that was a series that was on thin ice for a long time. some stuff about updates for Sonic Frontiers, it looks like. Or no, that's... You can download a free Sonic Frontiers demo from Japan's eShop. Interesting. Sonic Frontiers, that's another one that I didn't mention. Sonic Frontiers is... It just disappointed me. The whole thing just disappointed me. It just, like... Is it good? Probably. But I've fallen out with Sonic ever since. The last Sonic game that was really good in a 3D sense to me was Generations. And I really haven't touched the series since, other than Sonic Mania, which is another tremendous entry, and they won't do any sequels to that because reasons, I don't know. But Frontiers just... There's something about Frontiers that just... It felt like it struggles with the same problem that other open world games struggle with. And I know it's not a full open world game. It's an open zone game. So it's more open-ended levels that are still pretty linear. But it's not massive like a Skyrim or a Breath of the Wild. It's just... It's kind of like... I think it's more like Mario Odyssey in that sense. But bigger still. Mario Odyssey is kind of middle of the road when it comes to open-ended levels. I got a problem with that. Something here about Pokemon Unite. Giveaway of coins and gold emblem box to celebrate 100 million downloads. Wow. They're just now getting to 100 million downloads. That's pretty crazy. I'm surprised that game is still doing well. I mean, it's basically Pokemon League of Legends. It's a Pokemon MOBA. Guess it goes to show that genre still got some life in it. Especially when you add something like Pokemon to it. That's good to see, though. I tried playing it. It's not bad. I think I should probably try to play it more, actually. It's not as sweaty as League of Legends and not nearly as toxic, and not that I interact with the community or anything. Yeah, I don't got a whole lot of excuses as why not to play Pokemon Unite. Mario Kart 7 gets its first update in over a decade. What? This is real? Hang on a second, folks. Last update was in 2012. Second update ever. Wow. Oh, good on Nintendo. I'll probably have to end up downloading that. Wouldn't think I would be saying that about Mario Kart 7 in 2022. Jeez. Yeah, here it is. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection launches on Switch next April. I wasn't sure when it was going to launch, but I saw the trailer for it. I'm happy for... I'm really happy for fans of that, because I remember that was huge. It wasn't something I got into, but it was really big. Atlas shares more details on Persona 3 and 4. That's right. Persona 3 and 4 have yet to launch. Persona 5 is on there. I got Persona 5 on Game Pass. And that'll probably end up being the first Persona game that I play. But 3 and 4 are coming to Switch, and they're both pretty well received. So that'll be interesting. I wonder if we'll end up getting 2 and 1. Because those are both on the PSP. Interesting. Alright, what else? Wonder Boy Anniversary Collection. Interesting. Wonder Boy and Monster Boy are in the same series, I think. I could be wrong, so that's why I'm being tentative. But I did, this year, I believe, get Monster Boy and the, what's the Monster Boy that's on Switch? Cursed Kingdom? Monster Boy. I just forget what it's called. Yeah, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, that's right. And that's been pretty fun, too. Honestly, I don't know why I put that one down. I think I ended up kind of dead-ending in that game, too. But it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun. It visually is gorgeous. I didn't know anything about the series till I started playing, and then I started looking into it. So, the spiritual successor to Sega's Wonder Boy. Okay, so it's sort of in the same vein, but it's its own thing. Okay. So you got Wonder Boy that's still ongoing, or at least in a collection, and then Monster Boy, which is its own thing. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's still getting updates. That's cool. That's been an interesting game. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I have it on Xbox. Didn't get it on Switch. I like the concept of what it is and how you play through the different stories in DBZ, but between the Budokai games and everything in between, played through the Dragon Ball stories, the Dragon Ball Z stories so many times, it's just like, come on. You know, how many times are we going to do it? But admittedly, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a really good action RPG type game. It is a good way to play through those stories, even if the stories are a little bit streamlined and done slightly differently. Because you can only tell the same story so many times before people eventually catch on. So they added... I think they sort of streamlined them a little bit. Oh yes, and biggest news of all is Super Nintendo World is opening its doors February 2023. They've already opened the retail shop and it's been doing great from what I've seen. But I'm not interested in going to California. I'll be waiting till they do one in Orlando if they do. One's not currently listed anywhere, but I mean, Universal would be crazy to not do Orlando. It would do gangbusters. It would do tremendously. Because I do not want to go to California for any reason. No California for me. Absolutely not. No, sir. No, thank you. Especially not in the Los Angeles area. Whew, no. Absolutely not. But that's going to be cool. Another opportunity for people to get Mario merch, and some of these rides will be interesting. I don't know how big it's actually going to be. It doesn't look like it's going to be terribly big, but there's going to be enough there to do to really get people's attention. The merch alone is going to be just a huge thing, because people wanting to get Mario-themed merch has always been huge. So, see, you got Cuphead, the delicious last course, serves up 2 million sales. Oh, that is awesome. Great DLC. Have it, but I haven't really gone through it because I've been trying to go through the main game and get to the final boss. I'm on King Dice right now, and he's been kicking my butt. Oh, man, that's tough. But glad to see it doing well. That game deserves all the success it gets. The story of that game, the developers having to, you know, gamble pretty much their life savings, or maybe not their life savings, but almost all the money they had on just making the game, and it's paid back in spades. It is tremendous. It is spectacular. It is indie excellence. It's right up there as a pinnacle of indie games with games like Shovel Knight. It really is. It really is. And I really like it. It's difficult, so if you've never played it before, you know, buyer beware. It's not easy, but I think the challenge is more than fair. So, oh, let's see. Wow. They're just pointing out that Wind Waker turns 20. They got an article saying Wind Waker turns 20. Doesn't Toon Link deserve a second chance? Absolutely. Absolutely. The last time we saw the Toon Link character was in Triforce Heroes. And I think he absolutely deserves better. That is an aesthetic that should not go away. I think all the hate for that is terribly overblown. I think it's a very charming style. But it's a style that Nintendo just has not utilized. They utilized it, I think, 4 other times. They did it once with Four Sword Adventures. They did it again with Phantom Hourglass, and again with Spirit Tracks, and then the last time they did it was with Triforce Heroes. So yeah, Toon Link absolutely deserves a better chance. 100%. So I'm sorry this has turned into the Browse Nintendo Life Articles podcast, but I didn't come with much prepared to talk about because honestly, at this point during the season, there's just nothing. I mean, still going to be waiting till at least February or March for a Nintendo Direct, possibly April. I wouldn't be surprised if they push it back to April. Unless they've got something super major that they really need to push out. I don't see them doing it in January or February. I think that's way too soon. Even March feels too soon, so April, May, or June. They probably won't wait till June. But I could see March or April being the sweet spot, and then August, and then October. I'm trying to think when were the different ones this year. I don't know if they'll go with that same pattern or not. It just depends on what their lineup looks like. Either way, they'll probably never do E3 again if that comes back like people are talking about it's going to. Oh, that's right. SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake is coming out. That's looking like it's going to be promising. It looks like they're going to take what they did with Battle for Bikini Bottom and really expand on that. And that game was uber successful as a 3D platformer. I still have never really played it in depth. I think I might have played it once as a kid, but never got some time with it. Never really played too many of the SpongeBob video games. I have Revenge of the Flying Dutchman on GBA. I got it for my birthday. I remember that birthday, that was the only gift I got, and I was super emotional because I really appreciated my parents getting me anything at all. I was disappointed, but at the same time I was just really emotional and happy that my parents thought to get me anything. It really wasn't that great of a game. I'd put it down like the day after I got it. It's weird because you use bubbles as platforms and as attacks, and it's different, but I don't know, I ought to go back and revisit that. See if I can beat it. That'd be fun. But Battle for Bikini Bottom, especially the rehydrated version that just came out, that game is being praised as one of the best licensed platformers, at least of a cartoon or a movie. It's really well done. I think the main complaint people have is you've got certain voice actors are missing, like Clancy Brown isn't Mr. Krabs. And I think a couple of the other voices might be changed too. But most of the main cast is intact. Like SpongeBob himself is still Tom Kenny. Patrick is still Bill Figurbaki, or Figurbaki, however you say that. Sandy is still Carolyn Lawrence. Plankton is still Doug Lawrence. Squidward is still... Oh shoot, what is his name? Roger Bubkiss? Roger... Bumpus? Something like that. Squidward voice actor. Aren't we having fun, folks? What a podcast, right? Squidward voice actor. No, why does Google do this? You look up a voice actor or an actor and they're like, oh, hey, so-and-so died. It's bad enough that many celebrities have been dropping dead recently. Roger Bumpus. I think that's how you say that. Who, fun fact, was also the voice of Professor Membrane from Invader Zim. And he does a tremendous job in that role. And you hear a little bit of Squidward when he screams, too, which is funny. But very talented voice actor, incredibly talented. Been doing Squidward all these years. And I can't imagine that's easy with that nasally voice. But to go from that to Professor Membrane, and when they did Enter the Florpus, it's amazing how on point all the voice cast was there. I mean, Richard Horvitz's Zim was always on point, but just seeing, Roger Bumpus back as Professor Ben Brain, not having skipped a beat, even after doing Squidward and who knows what else all these years. The voice actor for Dib and his sister. The tallest voice actors. It's like they never skipped a beat, and it was awesome. That was one of the most awesome Nickelodeon revival type movies I'd seen. It was really, really cool. Rocco's Modern Life, the one that they did, I lost interest. That one got a little too different for me. But I like the original trailer, that at least, but I think the Invader Zim movie did a lot better. I think all of them deserve another season of their series, but hey, what do I know? What do I know? So I guess that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got. I mean, I'm not playing a whole terrible amount. I just wanted to get a podcast out and just talk about a couple things. And hopefully people will listen, and hopefully people are really enjoying this. I love doing this podcast. I know it's better with somebody else, but there are going to be a lot of times I do solo episodes, so I'll try to come more prepared next time with some more on-topic topics. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We finally hit an hour, so I think I'll end it off here. I can't think of anything else I really wanted to talk about. There's just not a whole lot going on. I'm glad, hopefully I was able to fill this nice hour with something for you to listen to and some stuff for you to think about. And some nice Nintendo-related topics. Let me know, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments below what you think. And if you're listening on Anchor, thank you very much for listening. Really, really appreciate that. The last episode ended up being in video form. This one might be in video form up there too. I don't know how to switch it back to just audio. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this little chat we had, and I will see you guys in the next episode. This has been Super Koopa. Thank you for listening to the Bad Gamepad podcast show thing, and I will see you guys next time. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.